I'm sitting here with my friend Miranda today. Thank you for being a guinea pig
You're
for
welcome.
my new website. Miranda has been a friend of mine for a few years now, and so I'm grateful that she's joining me. She's been married to her husband Jared for almost 10 years now, and they have 3 children, Max, Macy, and Crosby. We're going to talk about them in a minute. First of all, Miranda, I want to hear from you. One of the big priorities for you in your motherhood is healthy living and really promoting that with your family, with your children. Tell me kind of why you believe in that. Where does that passion and drive come from for healthy living?
It's a funny thing because I was raised wonderfully, but I don't necessarily think that it came from anything I was taught as a child. Consciously, that I remember, that I attribute to that. Maybe it's sort of underlying beneath everything, but I really just feel like some classes that I took in college piqued an interest, and I felt more of an internal motivation to learn more about certain things, and just a balance. I've always been fascinated with physiology and medicine in general, but I've never been super bright or gifted when it comes to certain sciences. So, but I've always, something that spoke to me has always been like just complementary forms of medicine and a balance, like in everything, a balance in your approach to health and wellness. I've always liked the idea of being able to stop, like, instead of treatment, like, you know, doctors or Western medicine is better at doing. I like the idea of prevention, you know, just maintaining a healthier lifestyle so that you don't have to treat more problems health-wise that would arise with serious illness or chronic illness. So,
with your big push for healthy living and specifically healthy eating, do you get pushback from your kids, even from your husband? How do you deal with like typical picky eating syndrome and kind of what's your philosophy on dealing with that?
That they deal with it. As long as I'm in charge of the cooking, we all get to try something new every once in a while. Okay. So last year I went through a phase or a period where I planned out my meals for like 3 months, and every week I organized it so that we would have like a meatless Monday, and we would try something, you know, without a traditional protein, animal protein. And there was always grumbling, but sometimes, you know, it was well received, decently received. I don't know that Meatless Mondays ever like well received. And Max will try lots of stuff, my oldest, but he is in a phase right now where like he's really picky. So it's hard, and as parents, like from a general parenting standpoint, he has to at least try to obtain some of that balance, you know, be able to say that you've tried it, and if you don't like it, that's respected. But he has to try it, you know, like a 3 bites thing, and then we can move on, or something. You don't have to necessarily clean your plate. I certainly don't want to be wasteful, but I also, I respect that we all have our preferences and our biases. I don't think I'll ever like mushrooms, and it may hurt ears for me to say that to some people who love them, but you know, we all do.
Right.
And really fast, we love international cuisine, and I think that's valuable to introduce that super early on for young palates, just so that they have an appreciation and of where food comes from and what other cultures and people eat. We love Indian food, we love all kinds of Asian and Middle Eastern food, and haven't done too much African, certainly a lot of Latin flavors here in Texas, Mexican flavors, but anyway, I think that's important too.
Cool.
And we try to do that.
That's great. Well, I could ask you about that all day because I have a lot of questions about that, but I want to make time for a few other questions I have for you. However, I know that in healthy eating, in preparation, you have a garden, you have been called the muffin queen recently.
I really like muffins.
You make a lot of muffins, and you use your dehydrator, and that takes a lot of time. So do you have something in your family's life right now that you feel like you'd love to be more of a priority in the future, but right now with 2 little boys running around, it's just not something that's happening right now.
Homeschooling is in my near future in a
Okay.
more formal sense.
Okay.
And I'm really excited and really scared about that because I'm really good at doing little things on the fly. But as far as sacrificing some of these other interests or priorities that I have for a set curriculum, I think is going to be harder for me than I'm willing to admit right now.
Okay.
And it should be, at this age, it should all be very informal anyway. There are a lot of people who say, teach them through games, make it fun, make it interesting, and that's exactly what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want to diverge from that too much, but I think he also has to learn to focus and to have some sort of a regimen.
Right.
And for both of us, that might be hard.
So one of the reasons I'm really grateful that Miranda is willing to talk to us today is you have experienced a loss of a child.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that a lot of women deal with, men too, obviously. A lot of families deal with loss, and but that's such a deeply personal experience. I'm really grateful that you're willing to share with us your experience. I guess just from you, tell us about Macy. Tell us Macy's story.
Well, can you see like my eyes already shimmering?
Yeah.
I get emotional more because I honestly, I really relish and I savor opportunities to talk about her because in my life, my personal, the way that I am, and it's just easy for me to forget almost in my busy, I'm very energetic and hardworking, so I try and I enjoy accomplishing a lot every day. But something that will always be something I'll have to work on is just taking those deep breaths and taking a moment to refocus and reprioritize and remember what's most important. And one of those things for me will always be my daughter. But I think it will take it has and it will continue to take a lot of conscious effort to remember her and give her the place in my life she deserves. And not that I'm forgetting, like that sounds terrible that
Sure.
you would forget somebody so important, but she's not physically here, and some people might, I don't feel her presence like a lot in my life necessarily, and maybe that's something that could happen if I prayed for it, being religious, that's something I felt like I really wanted or needed. Maybe I could be granted that, but anyway, I don't know if it is captured on a camera, but she's not even in that picture. Never mind. We used to have
we'll show
like
the
our
picture
family
in a minute.
picture up there
Mhm.
of her, but so I carry each of my children. Well, her and Max. She and Max I carried well over term. Max was 5 days overdue, and she was 2 weeks overdue.
Okay.
So come a few days more, and I would have been induced. But I went into labor naturally with her, and after having a less than ideal birthing experience with Max, now my ideal is pretty ideal. Like, I'm the one who's kind of a granola hippie and wants to have her in a bathtub in my house or something. And for Max, it was a water birth in a hospital that was planned and didn't quite work out. And I wanted so much the opposite of that for my experience with Macy. So I hired a doula who was a birthing assistant, and she was wonderful. And I just thought, okay, I will go to the hospital because this is the compromise kind of between my husband and I. I'll go there to deliver the baby in case something happens, but we'll labor at home as long as possible, and that will be like my personal crowning achievement is like just this experience with my child and doing it together and working hard. And in preparation for that, I took a hypnobirthing class, and I felt wonderful doing all of that. And as I dealt with labor pangs, like actual contractions and things, I felt like those techniques helped immensely. That experience that I had was very different from laboring with Max. And so the only problem happened was after I had been in hard labor for like 12 hours, like so long, like almost all day. We had called my doula over and she was there, and we decided to go to the hospital, and the nurse listened to Macy's heartbeat, and she got very scared, like very serious expression. She said, I think I think there's something wrong, like we should go, and I think a C-section is going to be in the cards for you. And I was just like, oh, that's ridiculous. I had a C-section with my first, and that's definitely not going to happen. You probably hear my heartbeat. I feel very relaxed. My heartbeat is very low, not hers. She's like, and then she looked at me and she was like, no, I think your baby's dying. And I could feel that she didn't want to have to share it so brutally with me, but that she could see I wasn't going to be convinced otherwise. And so she didn't break it to me very gently. And then I was like, okay, do what you have to do. Like, let's just do what we have to do.
Sure.
And I've never seen a C-section happen so quickly. I mean, they almost had me cut open before the anesthesia set in. They were like, is it go time? Can we go? Is she under? Like, they were ready. And so I will be forever grateful for the people who helped with that in the hospital, the nurses and doctors who facilitated her delivery. That was I'm getting a little lengthy, but
This is your story.
yeah, so she was born without a heartbeat and she was born not breathing. So they resuscitated, and I didn't get to see her for a long time. She got whisked away. It was a really hard time for Jared. He was behind closed doors, my husband. He felt very, very alone. So it was, I just wasn't very available. I was so dragged out for hours after that. That's a whole other story for the dads who experience loss like that.
Yeah.
But thankfully, we had amazing friends from Houston who had come to town and were there in the hospital with him, and and I'll always be so grateful for what Macy gave me while I was laboring with her at home, and I'll be grateful for what she gave me for the 3 days that she lived afterwards. She underwent a cold blanket therapy, which is where they, cool the body's temperature extremely to preserve brain function, because at this point she had lost a lot of brain function for lack of oxygen. In the end, we were given the news that it didn't look like she would really recover at all, and they felt like she would pass pretty quickly after being taken off of life support, and that's what happened. We had 45 minutes with her after they took out all of her tubes and all of her monitoring devices. And it was beautiful. She passed away after 3 days of life on Earth. But I'll tell you, the fondest and most natural memory I have of my little family at that time was when we were in this room in the hospital without all the tubes and things. And we just got to hold her. Like, we took turns, Jared and myself and my mom and Max. And Max was so oblivious. He was like just over 2 years old, and so he just played and colored and did things, but it was fine. That was the most, I remember sitting in a corner and just thinking, this feels normal, like here I am with my whole little family, and it was great. The thing that has saved me in that moment and in the years past is two things, really. And one is my faith, because I do happen to be very religious, and I have a strong, it's not knowledge, because I don't see her. I don't, know from looking at her every day that she lives. But it's a feeling that's so strong that I could never deny it, that I do know that she lives. That she lives as a spirit, and that one day she'll get her little body back, and one day I'll have my little girl again, and that all of us will be a family forever. So it's just a matter of time, and every day I live is a day closer to being with her again. And I wish I could talk about this without being such a boob, but anyway.
But you don't need to.
Yeah, so. I like this opportunity. I think it's sort of cleansing and helps me reprioritize. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to cry about it and think about it and remember my daughter.
So you talked a little bit about the healing that you have found from this experience and that moment in the hospital that you're you're able to reflect back on. I guess, your story speaks so much to people who experience loss. For those who have loved ones that experience loss and good friends, I would love to know what is helpful for loved ones who want to reach out, who want to be a support. What's helpful or unhelpful to say or to do in that moment or period of healing after loss?
It's such a good question. And it's something that I'm glad I experienced firsthand so that I can be more sensitive to others in need and also offer this perspective, because it can be so awkward. You can want worse than anything to offer condolences, but be so anxiety-ridden about what to say or not to say.
Exactly.
So my personal thought is sometimes, usually, less is more. Unless you really feel strongly about sharing something. But that something is better than nothing.
Okay.
If you feel anything for someone who's experiencing a loss or going through any sort of difficult life experience, say something. Reach out in some way. It doesn't have to be anything more than I'm sorry. It doesn't have to be anything more than like an emoticon, like hug or whatever,
Right.
Whatever makes you feel least awkward, but shows that person that you're thinking about them. That was the second fold thing I was going to mention with Macy, is that like my faith got me through it, and just knowing that it was amazing. It's such a strange dichotomy to be going through such an amazing and terrible personal loss, but at the same time to literally feel like you're on cloud 9, in the sense that I was so uplifted by people around me, and around me physically, and around me in every sense of social media, and from all over the country, like from family and friends and people we hadn't heard from for years, but that knew that something terrible was happening and we would need support, prayers, food, kind words, whatever. That was amazing. It's sad that it takes like a birth or a death, but nothing like those two events bring people together, it seems like, And so I was so happy to have all my family there. But in like a really sad joke, I would just say like, wow, like my daughter has to die for like all of you guys to come out. But it was wonderful. I'm so grateful that they do. And so you really benefit from
that. Thank you so much for being willing to talk to me today and share your experiences and your philosophies and your wisdom in parenting as we all continue to gain wisdom. I want to ask you a few questions. Are you ready? In
ready.
Closing. Miranda, what is your favorite sound?
As we hear in the background, boys being boys and making ridiculous sounds. Silence or nature sounds, like very faint, like bird chirping, wind, water, but very faint, because sometimes silence is amazing.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
What is your least favorite sound?
The sound of one of my bins of toys, like something with a lot of toys, like Lincoln Logs, or something really clattering, like Legos, being dumped down on the floor. It's the worst sound in the world.
What is your favorite word?
Eternal.
Miranda, what do you know?
I know that God lives.
What do you want to learn?
I want to learn that, for as important as it is to me to be balanced, I want to learn how to be better balanced.
Amen to that. Miranda, what scares you?
Not living up to what I feel like my own potential is.
I think that's a universal thing for mothers. But Miranda, what are you good at as a mother?
I'm good at being energetic and enthusiastic.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, you're welcome.